Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe to the channel, then not hard my pleasure. Alright, so picture this. I was about 4 years old, basically, a tiny version of myself, just trying to navigate the world. All I wanted was a carrot. Simple, right? But, here's the thing, I couldn't just eat it like a regular kid. Nope, I had standards. The carrot absolutely had to be peeled. No other way would do. If I was going to snack on it, it had to be perfect. Don't ask me why, I guess I was picky even back then. Now, my mom was exhausted. She'd been running around all day, probably a little worn out from trying to manage everything while I was doing my usual adorable but chaotic thing. She was lying on the couch, not really napping, but just taking a breather. And honestly, she deserved it. Parenting is tough. But me being me, I thought, hey, she's busy. I'll just handle this myself. So, I grabbed the carrot, and like any toddler with a slight streak of overconfidence, I head straight for the kitchen. I didn't really think things through, you know? I figured, how hard could it be? I could just peel the carrot myself. Except, I didn't have the fine motor skills for it. And that's how I ended up with a pretty solid cut on my thumb. The blood, yeah, that part one still remember. It was everywhere, red and a bit dramatic for a kid who just wanted a snack. I remember feeling this immediate panic, like, oh no, what did I do? So there I was, standing in the kitchen with blood slowly trickling down my thumb. I had no idea what to do. I mean, I was only 4. Everything felt like a crisis. I remember staring at my thumb, horrified, like I had just made some huge mistake. Then, like a superhero, my mom rushes in. She must have heard me yelp or maybe just sensed that something was up. She wasn't exactly in the mood to be a nurse, but there I was, her little kid covered in blood, so there was no escaping it. She was scared too, probably more than I was. I mean, I was just a kid, so it felt like a weird mix of oh no, I did something bad and is this going to end with me in trouble? But my mom? She was thinking, is he gonna need stitches? Is this going to be a trip to the ER? Somehow, she kept it together. She managed to stop the bleeding, probably more out of sheer instinct than anything else. And then, like the trooper she is, she healed me up. She didn't even yell, even though I'd clearly caused some chaos. To her credit, she didn't flip out, she just wrapped my thumb up in a bandage and made sure I was okay. She kept telling me it was going to be fine, that accidents happen. But deep down, I think she realized that she needed to keep a closer eye on me. After that incident with the carrot, I thought I'd learned my lesson. I mean, come on, what's more of a wake-up call than nearly slicing off your thumb at 4 years old, right? I figured that would be the last time I did something that risky. But nope. My mom, probably thinking, okay, he's got this now, decided to give me a little more freedom. Maybe she thought I was becoming responsible or something. But, looking back, she should have known better. I was still a curious little whirlwind who had no concept of danger, and the carrot fiasco was just one of many accidents waiting to happen. Fast forward a couple of days. I'm in the kitchen again, minding my own business. This time, I've got my carrots peeled and ready for munching, because by now, peeling is just something I have to do. I can't leave them unpeeled, not after the whole thumb incident. But while I'm happily munching on my carrots, I spot something that catches my eye. You see, my mom had this thing with keeping the kitchen clean and organized, which included keeping tweezers, for whatever reason, on the counter. I wasn't supposed to touch them, but as a curious kid, that just made them that much more irresistible. I mean, how hard could it be to mess with tweezers? What's the worst that could happen? So, there I was, just minding my own business, enjoying my peeled carrots, when I spotted those tweezers sitting innocently on the counter. And as a kid, I just had to know what would happen if I did something with them. The temptation was too strong. I reached over, grabbed them, and without thinking much further, decided the kitchen light socket was a perfect place to play. I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to do something dangerous on purpose. To me, the light socket was just, well, another interesting thing to explore. So, I stuck the tweezers in. And, oh boy, what happened next was nothing like what I expected. There was this flash, this sudden jolt that sent me flying backward. I remember the exact moment the electricity hit me, like everything went still for a second, then bam. I felt like I was hit by a wave. My whole body tensed up, and I could barely process what was happening. The light in the kitchen went out instantly, and I ended up sprawled on the floor, feeling like my heart was still trying to catch up with my brain. I couldn't even scream. I was too shocked. It wasn't until the light flickered back on and I realized I wasn't dead that I started to panic. I just shocked myself. I turned off the kitchen light with my own body. I don't remember how I managed to get up or what happened after, but I do remember the horror of realizing what I'd done. My hands were shaking, and I felt stupid. And the worst part? I couldn't even explain it to my mom yet. I was too scared to face her, but I knew there was no way she wouldn't figure it out soon enough. I think it took a little while for my mom to notice that the kitchen light was out. She probably assumed it was just a blown bulb or something, but I knew better. I was already starting to feel like I'd messed up big time. I could feel the weight of the shock lingering in my body, both physically and emotionally. When my mom finally figured it out, it wasn't immediate. I don't remember exactly how it unfolded, but I do remember her turning the kitchen light on and off, trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And then, she must have seen the tweezers on the floor. I'll never forget her face when she realized what I had done. It was a mix of confusion, concern, and disbelief. And, oh man, the guilt that washed over me. I could tell she was just trying to process it all. Did he really just? And probably wondering why on earth I had even thought to do that in the first place. To my surprise, though, she didn't freak out. She didn't shout or lose it. Instead, she sighed, rubbed her temples, and gave me the "you've got to be kidding me" look. I could tell she was trying to stay calm for both of our sakes, but the tension was real. She knelt down and asked me, as gently as she could, "What did you do this time?" I froze. I mean, how do you even explain to your mom that you thought sticking tweezers in a light socket was a good idea? What do you even say to that? I was just playing, I said, not exactly convincing anyone, least of all myself. And there it was, the moment of truth. The real weight of the situation hit me. It wasn't just the shock, it wasn't even the light being out, it was that I could have seriously hurt myself. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. My mom didn't shout, didn't scream, but the disappointment in her eyes was more than enough. It felt like a punch in the gut. She told me she'd never thought she'd have to explain to a 4-year-old why sticking metal things into electrical sockets wasn't a good idea. I could see she was trying to hold it together, but it was clear this wasn't just about a dumb mistake. I'd scared her. She didn't ground me, or punish me, or anything like that. Instead, she just kept saying over and over, "What were you thinking?" But it wasn't a question, more like a statement of disbelief. I was a smart kid, I thought. I just made a mistake, right? But that wasn't how she saw it. She saw a kid who'd been reckless and lucky to be alive. I could tell that part hurt her more than anything else. In the following days, she kept a much closer eye on me. I could feel the extra layer of protection she was wrapping around me. She was extra cautious now, extra vigilant, and I felt it. The freedom I'd had before was slowly being stripped away, one safety measure at a time. But there was also this kind of quiet sadness that settled between us. I wasn't allowed to have the same freedom anymore. I wasn't allowed to run around the house without a watchful eye on me. It was like that moment when I shocked myself became the line she drew in the sand. I could sense it. My small, childish world had shifted into a more controlled one. I couldn't go back to being carefree like I had before. Looking back on that moment, I can't help but think about how much my mom must have been juggling in her mind. I mean, sure, she was worried about me, but I think she was also battling the larger reality of what raising a child truly meant. I'm sure she wanted to give me freedom to grow, explore, and learn, but I kept testing the boundaries. Each time I did something risky, I could see her retreating a little further into that protective space, the one where she knew she had to guard me from myself. And I get it now. I didn't understand it at the time, but she was scared. Not just scared that I might get hurt, but scared of losing me in a different way, of me making decisions that could change my life forever in ways I couldn't even comprehend. She wasn't just trying to stop me from playing with tweezers. She was trying to stop me from doing something that could have led to far worse consequences. Something that, if I didn't have her watching over me, could have ended differently. That shock wasn't just an electric jolt through my body. It was a jolt through our relationship. She had to draw that line, whether she wanted to or not. And I couldn't help but feel like I crossed it every time I did something reckless. I could feel the space between us widening, and it hurt more than I realized at the time. After the whole light socket incident, things settled into an uneasy calm. My mom seemed to have forgiven me, but I could tell there was a shift. It wasn't like before, where I could get away with little accidents and she'd just shake her head, laughing it off. Now, every move I made was scrutinized, every action considered dangerous. And I get it. It was a wake-up call for her. She couldn't afford to let me roam around without thinking of the consequences. I think that's when she started making more rules, laying down boundaries that felt like they were made out of concrete. And honestly, I didn't blame her. But it still felt suffocating. It wasn't just the big, obvious things like not touching electrical sockets. It was the little things too. No more running around the house at full speed. No more unsupervised trips to the kitchen. Every little thing had to be done under her watchful eye. At the time, it felt like my world was shrinking. Like I was losing that sense of freedom, the ability to explore without consequence. I wasn't allowed to make my own mistakes anymore. And honestly, I resented it. I resented the fact that she didn't trust me anymore, even though I didn't fully understand why. I didn't see the potential for real danger. I just saw rules, and I hated being bound by them. As time passed, I started to realize something important, though I didn't have the words for it back then. Every little restriction my mom put in place, every extra watchful eye, was her trying to protect me. But to me, it just felt like a constant reminder of my failure. I'd messed up, and now I was being treated like I couldn't handle anything on my own. It was hard to understand why she was so worried. I didn't see it as her protecting me. I just saw it as her taking away my independence. To a 4-year-old, everything feels unfair when it's taken from you. I wanted to run, explore, make mistakes, my mistakes, but instead, I felt like I was living under a microscope. What hurt even more was that the more I acted out, the more she pulled back. She wasn't angry, but I could sense the frustration building. It wasn't about the light socket incident anymore, it was about me not understanding the weight of what I had done. I could see her worrying about what might happen next, and I could feel her withholding that sense of freedom I once had. It felt like I was being punished for being curious. And then came the day when she sat me down and had the talk. Not about the birds and the bees, but about responsibility. She explained, with patience and a little sadness in her voice, that I was no longer just a little kid who could do whatever I wanted. She told me that sometimes the things we do without thinking can cause real harm, and that wasn't something we could just fix with a bandage. For the first time, I really listened. I didn't understand it fully, but I understood that she wasn't mad at me. She was scared. Scared of what could have happened. Scared of losing me to something I couldn't control. After that conversation, something changed inside me. It wasn't immediate, but I started noticing the world a little differently. My mom wasn't just setting rules to make my life miserable, she was teaching me something. I wasn't old enough to put all the pieces together, but in that moment, I started to realize that the things she'd been doing, holding me back, watching me closely, weren't about controlling me. They were about protecting me from the things I didn't understand. There was a bittersweet feeling to it. I think I started to understand my mom's anxiety, even if I didn't agree with it. But it also stung. I wanted to be free, to explore, to be that reckless kid who didn't have to worry about the consequences of every action. And that's when the real lesson hit me: freedom wasn't free. It came with responsibility. That realization didn't come easily. I still felt that tension between me and my mom, the distance that had formed after the shock incident. Every time she told me not to do something, every time she warned me about being careful, it felt like a reminder of how I had crossed a line. But deep down, I knew she wasn't trying to crush my spirit. She was just trying to keep me safe. It was one of those moments that shaped me, even though I didn't fully get it. Looking back, I can see how she was teaching me, not just how to follow rules, but how to be aware of the consequences of my actions. As time went on, my relationship with my mom shifted in subtle ways. I became more aware of the responsibilities that came with growing up. I wasn't exactly thrilled about it, but I started to understand that my actions had a ripple effect, one that could hurt people, even if I didn't mean to. It wasn't just about my safety anymore. It was about the trust between my mom and me, and how every time I tested my limits, I was testing her trust as well. I think that's when I realized how hard it must have been for her. She had been trying to navigate the delicate balance of letting me be independent while also keeping me safe. And I had been so focused on my own frustration that I hadn't taken a moment to consider her side of things. She wasn't just a disciplinarian, she was someone who loved me deeply and feared for me constantly. But here's the thing, we both changed. Slowly, without even talking about it much, we found a new rhythm. I didn't feel like I was under constant surveillance, but there was a quiet understanding that I needed to make better choices. And she knew, deep down, that I was capable of it. It wasn't just about telling me to be careful anymore. It was about teaching me to think before I acted, to understand that the world didn't just revolve around my curiosity and impulsiveness. Looking back, I think that was the turning point for both of us. I wasn't the same kid who stuck tweezers into the light socket anymore. I had learned a lesson, but more importantly, I had learned that she had learned too. She wasn't just afraid anymore. She was teaching me, even when I didn't realize it. As I grew older, the lessons from those early years started to sink in more. The whole carrot incident and the tweezers in the light socket felt like distant memories, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit anymore. But every so often, I'd find myself reflecting on those moments. And in those reflections, I realized something: I had underestimated my mom's wisdom. She didn't just tell me what to do and what not to do, she was guiding me toward becoming someone who could make smarter decisions on my own. The more I thought about it, the more I understood how her protective nature wasn't about controlling me, it was about preparing me for the real world. She had been showing me that actions have consequences, even when we don't see them right away. That's something I didn't grasp as a kid, but as I matured, it became clearer. I wasn't the only one learning from my mistakes. My mom was learning how to let go, to give me more space, while still being there to catch me when I fell. The realization didn't come in a single moment. It came in bits and pieces, as I navigated adolescence and beyond. There were still times when I pushed the boundaries, still moments when I acted impulsively. But now, when I made those choices, I carried with me the lessons my mom had imparted, whether I realized it in the moment or not. I started to see that she had trusted me with more responsibility as I got older, but with each new level of freedom, I felt that weight of responsibility on my shoulders. She had prepared me for it in a way that I didn't fully appreciate at the time. And that realization made me feel something I hadn't felt before: gratitude. Looking back, I can see all the little things my mom did that made a huge impact on me, even if I didn't recognize it at the time. Those early lessons about safety, responsibility, and thinking before acting shaped who I became. But it wasn't just the rules and restrictions that stayed with me. It was the way she handled everything with such quiet strength. She didn't scream or punish me when I messed up. Instead, she showed me, through her actions, that love isn't about shielding someone from everything, it's about teaching them how to face the world, how to navigate its risks, and how to learn from their mistakes without repeating them. I started to see my mom not just as the person who kept me safe, but as the person who made me stronger. Those moments of tension between us, the ones where I felt smothered by her protection, had turned into the foundation for something more. As I got older, I began to recognize how much of my mom's strength had rubbed off on me. I wasn't the same impulsive kid anymore. I was learning how to think things through, to take responsibility for my actions, and to appreciate the importance of thinking ahead. And that's when the real gratitude hit me. All those years I had been frustrated with her for holding me back, I hadn't seen that she was teaching me the value of self-discipline. She wasn't just keeping me from getting hurt, she was helping me become someone who could stand on their own 2 feet. Eventually, I came to understand something else. It wasn't just about safety or responsibility, it was also about trust. My mom had trusted me with the freedom to make mistakes, and in doing so, she had trusted herself to guide me through them. When she stepped back after each incident, allowing me to learn, it wasn't because she didn't care. It was because she believed that I would learn, grow, and become someone capable of making better choices. That trust wasn't always easy for her. It meant taking risks, watching me stumble, and knowing I would probably hurt myself at some point. But she still trusted me enough to let me make those mistakes. And the truth is, that's one of the most powerful gifts she gave me. Trust isn't just something that's earned, it's something that's built over time, and it's something that can be given even when it's hard. My mom gave me that gift, even when I didn't deserve it, even when I made mistakes that could have been worse. She let me mess up and then helped me pick up the pieces. And that's a level of trust that's hard to come by. As I got older, I started to understand how much my mom had trusted me, and I realized that I could trust myself in the same way. I could trust that I would learn, that I would make better choices, and that even when I fell, I would rise again. That trust, built over years of quiet guidance and tough love, became the foundation of everything I did after that. Looking back on it all, I realized that my childhood was full of those quiet moments where my mom's love and wisdom shaped who I am today. It wasn't about the big speeches or dramatic moments, it was in the little things, the everyday choices she made, and the way she quietly guided me through the ups and downs of growing up. The carrot incident, the light socket shock, those small, seemingly insignificant moments were all part of something much bigger. They were lessons in responsibility, trust, and learning from my mistakes. I've come to appreciate those lessons in a way I never did when I was younger. I see now that my mom wasn't trying to ruin my fun or limit my freedom. She was teaching me the value of thinking ahead, of understanding consequences, and most importantly, of being responsible for myself and the people around me. She was preparing me for a world that's unpredictable, where things can go wrong in an instant, and the ability to navigate it with wisdom and care can make all the difference. If there's one piece of advice I'd give to anyone reading this, it's that mistakes aren't the end of the world, but the ability to learn from them is priceless. We all have moments where we mess up, or we act before thinking, but those are the moments that can shape us the most. And while it's easy to focus on the frustration of being controlled or limited, sometimes the real lesson is in understanding why someone is trying to protect you. And when you start to see that, you'll realize how much you've been taught, often without even knowing it. To anyone out there with kids or anyone who's been frustrated by the rules they've been given, remember that trust, responsibility, and learning from mistakes are all part of the journey. And one day, you'll look back and realize just how much that guidance meant. That's the wrap-up. How do you feel about how it all comes?